How you doing? Live from the streets of Kansas City in the heart of America. And temperature, according to my gauge, is right at freezing, and the skies are clear and beautimous. Our democracy is strong. American people are good people, generous, caring, empathetic. We just have a few mean-spirited bigots we have to deal with, and that's always been a part of our history for a long time. Just a few mean-spirited bigots. They're so mean-spirited they can't share this country with other people, and they would rather go grab their guns and whatever other weaponry and tear this country to pieces rather than share it. And I don't think most of us are in the mood to let them. This is what the world looks like. Nice and cold. Groundhog Day was yesterday, and we watched the movie Groundhog Day last night. But Groundhog Day was yesterday, and 6 more weeks of winter. But that's to be expected. I wonder if anybody's ever really checked the accuracy, but it doesn't really matter. It's just a fun tradition. Very accurate. There's other wives' tales like those little black caterpillars that everybody calls fuzzy wuzzies. When you see a bunch of them crossing the road in August, and it's a sign a bad winter is coming, supposedly. And I don't know about you, but I am tired of dealing with mean-spirited bigots. I have said before, maybe we should give them a reservation of their own. We can call it Bigot Land or White Liberia. Maybe there's a desolate land in Africa that we can send them to. So you don't like it here? Well, we got a place for you. Because, you know, one of the war cries of the desperate bigot is, if you don't like America, you can leave it. Well, it seems like they really don't like America because they attacked our capital. They were going on a hunting spree. They were going to shoot anybody they didn't like or agree with. And they thought that all the people that were inside, that worked inside, all the elected officials, the representatives, the senators, they wanted to hang him. They wanted to hang the Vice President of the United States of America. Can you imagine that? Apparently, when they did that, they set off some chain reactions of revulsion from members of the Republican Party themselves who said, I can't be a part of this political party if this is what we stand for, because it's not what I stand for. We've known that there's a vast majority of people who are in the middle in this country, not on the left, not really on the right. I mean, maybe they'll say I'm for traditional family values. I'm a conservative, but you look at what they do, and they're pretty moderate. It takes a whole machinery and political party brainwashing to convince people that they are otherwise. I have met so many people that are just really open-minded, and their thing is just they need to get through life as best they can, do the best they can. That's the majority of us. And we don't really have the time to mess around with the theoreticals and sit in front of our computers for 17 hours a day. Who was it? I was watching this thing by Vice, and they're trying to track down who is QAnon, and I think that the Q stands for Quisling, and the QAnon people are actually turned into a fifth column in this country, ready to open the gates for America's adversaries to come in, brainwashed and tricked into believing that they're being patriots when actually they are being the exact opposite. And so who is Q is the theme of this story. And they interviewed this guy. I don't care to even really know his name. I'm not going to read his stupid books. And he's like one of the top 4 or 5 Q people who decodes all the Q drops and whatever, and he's written books and everything, and so they're interviewing him, and they're just outside. It doesn't look like it's a very sunny day. It looks like it's just a regular day, and he won't take his sunglasses. If you take your sunglasses off so we could see your eyes when you talk to us. And he says, no, I can't. I spend 17 hours in front of a computer. He said, well, I'll try. And he takes the sunglasses off for a little bit. He said, I'm sorry, I got to put these back on. I spend 17 hours a day on front of a computer. And it's like, yeah. And he probably, I think he makes a living doing this kind of thing. So yeah, he's a professional Q dropper or whatever you want, professional Q bag. And the funny thing is, even he was like, no, I don't agree with storming the Capitol. That was the wrong move. But Mr. Q-Bag spends 17 hours in front of a computer. I hope he's making plenty of money for doing that, because if you spend that much time reading, researching, doing whatever, surfing the internet, looking at porn, whatever you're doing, if you're making money, if you're working 17 hours a day or more out of your life, and this guy has a family, he has a wife and kids too. And if you're spending all that time doing that, I hope you're making buku bucks an hour, because if you're not, if you're making, say you're making $30,000 or $40,000 a year doing that, well, you're spending 17 hours a day. You're probably not even are off, you're on. You know, like you got your phone handy, you got this, that. So you're working when you're off, constantly answering people's queries and searching and researching and answering questions and doing this and that and writing things and submitting blogs and this and that. Just obsessively. Well, as a job, if you're only getting about $30,000 or $40,000 a year, you're not getting paid very well. Even if you're making $50,000 a year, you're not getting paid very well for what you do. Because if you figure it out, you're making very little an hour, actually. You know, there's a Clash song, and something about vampires is like another breath, and some of these people really need to breathe and go, I need to figure something else out. I mean, there's so much you can do. There's so much that is fun. There's so much you can go out. It'll take you places and do things. If you're good at making money off the internet, which is very destructive and corrosive and destructive to our country and our culture. And I believe very firmly that what these people are actually doing, or they're doing the work of a psychological warfare operation. Matter of fact, in that Vice story, somebody comes out and says it. I believe this is a psychological warfare operation. Another government is trying to erode the United States. Could it be a dictatorship on the other side of Europe? Maybe a dictatorship in East Asia. Man, could you imagine what the internet would have been like if it was around during World War II? I mean, America did have a fascism problem. Every country did in World War II. In the 1930s, Great Depression, and things were bad and people were looking for scapegoats. There were a lot of people, you know, people won't say this now, but there were a lot of people in this country who thought Hitler was a hero. He was doing a great thing. He's brought Germany made a German miracle. Their efficiency and their military and everything else like that it's wonderful. And it is certainly better than them damn commies in Russia. And oh yeah, we really do agree with Hitler's racial policies as well. That's what a lot of people would say. And there were quite a few pocket fascists walking around the United States. The U.S. government kind of had a problem when it became apparent that we were going to war with Germany. As a matter of fact, there was Hitler was the one who coined the phrase fifth column, the fifth columnists, the people who were working within your country, who, when the signal was given and the invasion was to begin, they were to go out in the countryside and round up people they thought were that were needed to be rounded up and turn them into the invaders, and they were going to destroy, commit sabotage, and blow up bridges and military installations and disrupt communication. And in reward, the new regime would come in, and they would be made like given positions of power within the government. That the invasion of Norway, oopsies. Attention to what I'm doing here. You're not supposed to pull up behind the streetcar like this in the intersection. So, oopsies on me. Ding dong. What the invasion of Norway, this was definitely true. And a man by the name, I'm going to butcher his name, Vidkun Quisling. That's where the term Quisling comes from. It was an actual person. Was a diehard Norwegian Nazi. He loved Hitler. He thought Hitler was great. Hitler was his man. Matter of fact, he even, before the war, he even went to Germany to try and go meet Hitler. And Hitler just sort of, I think he got as sort of an opportunity and I brushed him off. Like, who are you? I don't care. Norway? Where's that? Well, when Germany was invading Norway, old Vidkun went around and did exactly that. He had his fifth column, which I don't think he had very many actual Norwegians helping him, but there were people, and they did exactly that. They rounded up people and blew up stuff and kicked open the doors for the invading German army and navy and air force. And in return, Mr. Quisling, all he wanted was for Hitler to make him prime minister of occupied Norway. And trouble eventually. Well, he was never considered to be a valid part of the government. The government went into exile in England, and they disavowed him, and it's like, he's not one of us, he's a traitor, and when we come back after the war, he will not be forgiven. And he wasn't. Whatever happened to old Vidkun? I think he got hung as a traitor. And that's what's happening in the United States right now. I'm not advocating we're going to hang anybody or anything. I don't think that things are that dour. But I think we have a lot of fifth columnists in this country. And yes, in a way, this country is sort of at war. It's the same war we've always been fighting. It's a war for our ideals and our freedom and our liberty. And there are people out there who would love to take it away from us, who love to take away American opportunities and the right for us to determine our own future. And there are people in our country who are helping them just because they're bigots. And they would rather help an enemy than try and share this country with their fellow countrymen. And isn't that just sad? I mean, even if you don't, even if you are a bigot, even if you are a racist, you gotta think, well, we're all in this together, really, in the end, and I can go do my own thing and not have to have anything to do with other people. We could all be fine and live peacefully. Nope. Can't do that. You got to pretend. You got to listen to this psychological warfare operation. Oh my God. There are people in Washington that are kidnapping children and putting them into sex slavery, and they're drinking blood and eating babies and whatever. I mean, I wish you could make this stuff up. That there are people who actually believe that. Now, I will surprise everyone by saying that in every conspiracy theory, there's always just a little tiny bit of truth or reality to it. And in this conspiracy theory, I know where it comes from. I've heard this stuff before, and I know that there is a little bit of truth. There is a big problem in this country and in the world with the sex slave trade, and there is a problem with people of power in positions of power and authority misusing those positions of power and authority and playing little weird games. I know that in Washington there has been there's been something akin to a pedophilia ring. I wouldn't say like out and out children, but more like insight. They always like to brag about barely legal. There's a sign here in Kansas City for a strip bar. It says totally nude right next to, it's real close to downtown. It says totally nude and then barely legal. So that, yeah, there is this obsession with like young, pretty people that we can have our power and control in our way with. And yeah, when all that stuff about Jeffrey Epstein came out, I said to my wife, well, there's been this kind of ridiculous conspiracy theory going around for a long time. And this guy right here proves that it wasn't so ridiculous or far-fetched. But it's very convenient to like take this and pin it all on like the Democrats, when actually there are quite a few Republicans who, as a matter of fact, it's even more egregious with Republicans. It's like the televangelistic preachers who get caught doing dirty things with prostitutes and whatever. And it's like, well, if you are a normal human being and you do that kind of thing, it's like, well, you're an adult. You make your choices. You know it's illegal. But when you're somebody who spends their life taking money from people, talking about God and holiness, and then you're doing something like that, then it's like, that's kind of above the line. And the thing is that these people, they do this kind of thing, they get caught, they ask for forgiveness. Oh, please forgive me, tearful, I am a sinner. And then, boom, they're back at it. Give me more money. Jeffrey Epstein is, I don't think it started or ends with him. I believe that there are more people involved, that he knew a lot of people in positions of power. He was counting on that to keep himself safe. And yeah, he was a sickie. He was taking young girls, really young. And he was a monster. He was feeding these young girls to other monsters. Now, I have never liked and I haven't really warmed up to Billary either. There are things that I like about them. As a president, Bubba did some things that were okay. But I just thought he was kind of sleazy. And, there's a picture of President Bubba on Jeffrey Epstein's front porch on Pedophile Island, an island that Mr. Epstein had, where he could have these young underage girls service his buddies, and there was no escape for him. Because, they could try and run off the island. There were cameras everywhere. There was security everywhere. Everything a rich man could buy. The best. They were describing how this one young girl was trying to leave the island, and she was about ready to jump in the water, and probably drown rather than have to have sex with another crusty old man, be forced to have sex with another crusty old man. And up comes Epstein. Where are you going? I got eyes all over this island. You can't leave. Rounds her up, takes her back to her room. So these Q bags, the Quislings, the fifth colonists, are ready to destroy this country because they believe Democrats are involved in this. And I'm like, no, actually, Mr. Epstein is one of yours, really, if you think about it. Wall Street crook. I mean, I guess he was friends with both sides, but he was friends with both sides. And he's in his jail cell. It was a suicide. When they knew what kind of risk he was, and yet didn't watch him closely. And not only did they not watch him closely, but the security cameras on his cell block just so happened to be broken, out of order. Somebody who was who knew all the names and everything, sitting in a jail cell, vulnerable. I'm not saying he didn't commit suicide. I'm just saying how convenient, how suspicious, how fishy that is. That he supposedly kills himself when the security guard, what was it? They said the security guard was asleep, fell asleep, or something like that. And they had cameras all over that place, except in that one part where they have a high-profile prisoner like that awaiting trial. Actually, I think his trial was beginning. So yeah, if people are so eager and willing to believe that, and they have to be fair about it, that hey, that corruption goes all the way on all sides. The people involved in that kind of thing. I remember I keep thinking of the Condit affair, and I think Condit was a Democrat, a representative from, I'd like to say, Minnesota, maybe? I'm not sure of that. Maybe it's Wisconsin. Maybe it was California. Well, he had a congressional page. And congressional pages are usually young, college-age people who are, they're ambitious, they compete to get this position. I'm not even sure if they get paid, but you go to Washington and you stand between the Capitol and the office buildings where the legislators have their offices. You'll see these young college people. A lot of them are young men, young women, and a lot of them are pretty damn good looking, you know. And they're walking back and forth, they're carrying papers, they're doing stuff. These are pages. They work in the offices of the Congress people, and I've heard for years that there are jokes about that these powerful men and women in Congress have a little game they play where they carry on affairs with these ambitious little pages. I'm not saying all of them are like this. I'm not saying all pages are bad. And, you know, part of the power games in Washington. And there was this one page who disappeared. And it ended up costing the congressman, Condit, I can't remember his full name, his career. He ended up resigning because everybody was like, where did she go? You know, it came out that she was having an affair with the congressman, and that people were thinking, oh, the congressman did something to her because she was going to tell on him or something. And so he resigns and all this stuff. And part of it was because, I think because he didn't really show a lot of enthusiasm in searching for. This was about 2000. This was about a year before 9/11. It was like really one of the big controversies in Washington before, you know, the big terrorist attack. And then eventually they found her body in some woods. And it was like, well, she was an avid jogger, and she was jogging one morning or one evening, or when it was, I don't know. She was jogging, and there was this homeless guy who was living in the woods who saw her, grabbed her, and, you know, killed her after probably doing other things. And, you know, when they found her body, it was like, oh, mystery solved. It wasn't the congressman after all, but he was still having this affair, supposedly. And, you know, he's no longer a congressman. But yeah, you cannot have it both ways. You can't be like, oh, well, it's all the Democrats. And no, the corruption runs all through different people. Democrats, Republicans, it doesn't matter. Once you get people in power, and there's this like game in town that they like to play, they're participants. Well, anyway, I gotta end it here. I'm losing my voice. I talk too much. And thanks for tuning in, and please like, subscribe, and ring the bell. See you later. Hee hee.